You are about to hear how a human daughter shocked the aliens in ways no one could have predicted. In the vast star-studded expanse of the universe, the Zoroth species stood renowned for their conquests and strategic prowess. Their technology was advanced, their warriors elite. Yet, there existed tales of planets that defied even the mightiest of conquerors, whispered in the dark recesses of interstellar academies. One such tale that caught the imagination of many young Zoroth students was that of an Earth-like farming planet, a verdant world that had unexpectedly repelled their forebears. The story begins in a grand lecture hall of the Zoroth Central Academy, where a group of bright-eyed students gathered around Professor Galarn, a veteran of many battles and now an esteemed historian. The walls of the hall were adorned with holograms of galaxies and pulsating stars, setting the stage for a lesson unlike any other. Laura, a human girl with a curious mind, sat among the Zoroth students, feeling both excited and nervous. She was the first human to ever be accepted into the prestigious Zoroth Central Academy, thanks to her father's work in intergalactic diplomacy. Laura was determined to prove herself, but she had no idea what lay ahead. As the lesson continued, Laura's attention drifted to the strange behaviors she had observed since her arrival. Whispers among the students, secretive glances, and a tension that seemed to simmer beneath the surface. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. After class, Laura approached Professor Galarn. "Professor, have there been any unusual events on campus recently?" she asked, trying to sound casual. Galarn's eyes flickered with curiosity. "Unusual? In what way, Miss Laura?" "Well, I've noticed some odd behavior among the students. And there are rumors about strange occurrences in the lower levels of the academy." Galarn's expression turned serious. "Rumors are a common currency in a place like this, but I advise you to focus on your studies. Leave the mysteries to those whose duty it is to uncover them." Laura nodded, but her curiosity was far from satisfied. That evening, she decided to explore the academy's lower levels, a place she had heard whispers about since her arrival. The corridors were dimly lit, and the air grew colder as she descended. In a secluded corner, she discovered a hidden door partially concealed behind a tapestry. Her heart raced as she pushed it open, revealing a staircase that led even deeper underground. She hesitated, considering the risks, but her curiosity won out. As Laura descended, she found herself in a vast underground chamber filled with advanced technology. Strange devices hummed with energy, and she could see alien symbols glowing on the walls. Her eyes widened as she realized she had stumbled upon something significant. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a Zoroth student, his eyes wide with fear. "What are you doing here?" he hissed. "I could ask you the same thing," Laura replied, her voice steady. "What is this place?" The student glanced around nervously. "You shouldn't be here." "This is dangerous." Laura took a step closer. "If it's dangerous, then I need to know why. What's going on here?" The student sighed, realizing he had no choice but to explain. "There's a group within the academy, a rogue faction. They've been planning something big, something that could put everyone at risk." Laura's mind raced. "We need to stop them. Can you show me where they are?" The student hesitated, then nodded. "Follow me." They navigated through the labyrinth of corridors, finally arriving at a large chamber where several Zoroth students were gathered around a holographic display. Laura's breath caught in her throat as she realized the scope of the conspiracy. "This is bigger than I thought," she whispered. "We need to act fast." The student looked at her with a mix of hope and fear. "What do we do?" Laura's eyes hardened with determination. "We find proof and expose them. The academy needs to know the truth." As they began to devise a plan, Laura knew she was stepping into dangerous territory. But she also knew that she couldn't back down. The fate of the academy and possibly more rested on her shoulders. Laura and the Zoroth student, who introduced himself as Zev, quickly formulated a plan. They needed evidence of the rogue faction's activities, and they needed it fast. The two unlikely allies crept closer to the group gathered around the holographic display, careful to stay hidden in the shadows. "We need to get closer," Zev whispered. "If we can record their conversation, it could be the proof we need." Laura nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She activated her wrist communicator's recording function, silently hoping it would capture the audio clearly enough. They edged nearer, straining to hear the conversation. "We move at dawn," one of the rogue faction leaders said. "The Academy's defenses will be down for maintenance." "That's when we strike," another member responded. "And what about the new human student?" "She's been asking questions. She's no threat," the leader scoffed. "We'll deal with her if necessary." Laura's blood ran cold. She and Zev exchanged a tense glance. They had enough to confirm the rogue faction's intentions, but they needed more concrete proof. "Let's get out of here," Laura whispered, motioning for Zev to follow her. They retraced their steps, careful to avoid detection. Back in the relative safety of an empty classroom, Laura played back the recording. It was clear enough to reveal the rogue faction's plan. Zev sighed in relief. "This is good. We can take this to the authorities." Laura shook her head. "Not yet. We need to catch them in the act. If we go to the authorities now, they might not believe us, or worse, the faction might have allies who could cover this up." Zev frowned but nodded. "You're right. We need to be sure." They decided to gather more information over the next few hours. Laura kept her eyes and ears open, noting any suspicious behavior among the students. She noticed that several members of the faction seemed to be communicating secretly, using coded messages on their wrist communicators. "We need to decode those messages," Laura said. "There might be more details about their plan." Zev led her to a friend who specialized in technology. Tessa was a Zorath student known for her hacking skills. After hearing their story, she agreed to help. "I'll need a sample of their coded messages," Tessa said, her fingers already flying over her device's holographic keyboard. Laura and Zev managed to intercept a few messages, which Tessa quickly decrypted. "They're coordinating their attack points," Tessa said, her eyes wide with alarm. "This is worse than we thought. They're planning to disable the Academy's main power grid and take over the control room." Laura clenched her fists. "We need to stop them with the attack planned for dawn." Time was running out. Laura, Zev, and Tessa devised a counterplan. They would alert the Academy's security forces just before the attack, ensuring they would be ready to intercept the rogue faction. The night seemed to drag on forever. Laura couldn't shake the feeling of dread that settled in her stomach. She knew they were risking everything, but she also knew they had no choice. The future of the Academy depended on their actions. As dawn approached, Laura, Zev, and Tessa took their positions near the main power grid. They had alerted a few trusted security officers, who were now lying in wait. The air was thick with tension as the minutes ticked by. Finally, they saw movement. The rogue faction members crept towards the power grid, unaware of the trap that had been set for them. Laura's heart pounded as she gave the signal. The security officers sprang into action, quickly subduing the conspirators. Shouts and scuffles filled the air as the rogue faction members were apprehended. Laura watched as the leaders were dragged away, their plans foiled. Relief washed over her, but she knew it wasn't over yet. They still had to ensure the Academy's safety. As the sun rose, casting a golden glow over the campus, Laura and her friends stood together, exhausted but triumphant. They had prevented a disaster, but Laura couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to uncover. "We did it," Zev said, a tired smile on his face. Laura nodded. "Yes, but we need to stay vigilant. There might be more factions out there, and we can't let our guard down," Tessa agreed. "We'll keep an eye out for any suspicious activity. And Laura, you should be proud. You saved the Academy." Laura smiled, feeling a sense of pride and determination. She had found her place at the Zorath Central Academy, and she was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The rogue faction had been stopped, but the Zorath Central Academy was still buzzing with the aftershocks of the near disaster. Security was tightened, and an investigation was launched to uncover the full extent of the conspiracy. Laura, Zev, and Tessa were hailed as heroes, But their ordeal was far from over. Laura found herself in front of a panel of Academy leaders recounting the events of the previous night. Professor Galarn and other high-ranking officials listened intently, their expressions a mix of concern and admiration. "You showed great courage and resourcefulness, Miss Laura," Galarn said, his voice filled with respect. "But we must understand the full scope of this threat. Can you tell us more about what you discovered?" Laura took a deep breath and explained everything from the hidden door and the underground chamber to the decoded messages and the final confrontation. The leaders exchanged worried glances as they absorbed her words. "We will continue the investigation," Galarn said finally, "and we will take every measure to ensure the safety of our academy. You and your friends have done a great service." After the meeting, Laura met Zev and Tessa in the library. They had become inseparable allies, bound together by the danger they had faced. "I can't believe we actually did it," Zev said, shaking his head. "But I have a feeling this isn't over." Tessa nodded. "I've been looking into the data we recovered. There are some encrypted files we haven't cracked yet. They might hold more clues about the faction's plans." Laura felt a familiar determination rising within her. "Let's get to work, then. We need to know everything for the next few days." They pored over the data, working tirelessly to decrypt the remaining files. The more they uncovered, the more they realized how deep the conspiracy ran. The rogue faction had connections within the Academy and beyond, and their ultimate goal was far more sinister than they had imagined. One evening, as Laura was sifting through the latest batch of decrypted files, she stumbled upon a shocking revelation. "Look at this," she said, pointing to her screen. "There are references to a secret project called Eclipse. It's mentioned in several communications between faction members." Zev leaned in, his eyes narrowing. "Eclipse? What is it?" Tessa's fingers flew over her keyboard. "I'm pulling up everything I can find on Eclipse. If it's important to the faction, it could be the key to understanding their true intentions." As the information poured in, a chilling picture began to form. Project Eclipse was an experimental weapon program designed to harness the power of a rare energy source. If completed, it could give the faction unimaginable power, enough to threaten the entire galaxy. "We need to stop this," Laura said, her voice firm. "If they get their hands on Eclipse, everything we've done will be for nothing." Zev nodded. "But how?" "We don't even know where this project is being developed." Tessa's eyes lit up with determination. "I might have an idea. According to these files, there's a hidden facility on the outskirts of the Academy grounds. It matches the descriptions of the labs where Eclipse is being developed." Laura's heart raced. "Then that's where we need to go. We have to find this facility and shut it down." The trio prepared for their mission, knowing the risks were higher than ever. They gathered supplies and planned their approach, each of them determined to see this through to the end. As night fell, they slipped out of the Academy, moving swiftly and silently through the shadows. The hidden facility was well guarded, but Laura's team had become adept at evading detection. They navigated through the perimeter defenses and finally reached the entrance. Inside the facility was a maze of corridors and labs, filled with advanced technology and alien artifacts. They moved cautiously, aware that any misstep could alert the guards. After what felt like an eternity, they reached the central lab. Laura's breath caught in her throat as she saw the massive device at the heart of the room. It pulsed with a strange, eerie light, and she knew without a doubt that this was Project Eclipse. "We need to disable it," Laura whispered, her eyes scanning the room for any clues. Tessa nodded, already working on hacking into the control systems. "I'll shut it down. Just give me a few minutes." But before she could finish, an alarm blared, and the room was flooded with red light. Guards burst in, weapons at the ready. "We've been found out," Zev said, his voice tense. "Get ready to fight." Laura's heart pounded as she faced the incoming threat. They had come too far to fail now. With a steely resolve, she prepared to defend her friends and stop the rogue faction once and for all. Laura, Zev, and Tessa stood back to back, facing the heavily armed guards who stormed into the lab. The air crackled with tension as the guards raised their weapons. Laura's mind raced, searching for a way to buy Tessa more time to shut down Project Eclipse. "We need to hold them off," Laura whispered, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. Zev nodded, gripping his weapon tightly. "I'll take the left side. Laura, you cover the right. Tessa, do your thing." As the guards advanced, Laura and Zev sprang into action. Using their agility and quick thinking, they dodged the guards' attacks, returning fire with precision. The room echoed with the sounds of battle, each blast of energy a reminder of the stakes. Tessa worked furiously at the control panel, her fingers flying over the keys. "I need more time," she shouted, her voice strained. Laura ducked behind a console, narrowly avoiding a blast aimed at her head. "We're trying. Just focus on shutting it down." Despite the odds, Laura felt a surge of determination. She couldn't let them win. With a burst of energy, she charged at a guard, knocking him off balance and disarming him in one swift move. Zev followed suit, using his strength to overpower another guard. But more kept coming. Laura's heart sank as she realized they were outnumbered. Desperation clawed at her, but she refused to give up. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the room. The main doors flew open, and a group of Academy security officers stormed in, led by none other than Professor Galarn. Laura felt a wave of relief wash over her as reinforcements poured in, evening the odds. "Secure the area," Galarn commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Protect the students." With the added support, Laura and Zev fought with renewed vigor. The guards, caught off guard by the sudden influx of security officers, began to falter. One by one, they were subdued, their weapons confiscated, and their movements restrained. Tessa let out a triumphant shout. "I've done it. Project Eclipse is shutting down." The device in the center of the room began to power down, the eerie light dimming until it was nothing more than a lifeless hunk of metal. Laura breathed a sigh of relief, her body sagging with exhaustion. They had done it. They had stopped the rogue faction's plans. Professor Galarn approached them, his expression a mix of pride and concern. "You three have done an incredible job," he said, his voice warm. "But this isn't over. We need to ensure that every member of this faction is apprehended and that Project Eclipse is completely dismantled." Laura nodded, her eyes meeting Galarn's. "We understand. We'll help in any way we can." Over the next few days, the Academy was a whirlwind of activity. Investigations were conducted, arrests were made, and Project Eclipse was thoroughly dismantled. Laura, Zev, and Tessa were hailed as heroes, their actions celebrated by students and faculty alike. Despite the praise, Laura couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to be done. She spent hours poring over the decrypted files, looking for any remaining threats. One night, while reviewing the data, she found something that made her blood run cold. "Zev, Tessa, you need to see this," she said, calling them over. They crowded around her screen, eyes widening as they read the information. "It's another facility," Zev said, his voice barely above a whisper. "An even larger one. And it's operational." Tessa's face paled. "If the rogue faction manages to regroup and activate this facility, everything we've done will be for nothing." Laura's heart pounded. "We need to act now. We have to stop them before they can recover." Galvanized by the new threat, they prepared for what would be their final mission. The next night, under the cover of darkness, they set out for the new facility. The stakes were higher than ever, but Laura knew they couldn't afford to fail. As they approached the hidden base, Laura felt a steely resolve settle over her. This was it, their final chance to stop the rogue faction once and for all. She glanced at her friends, seeing the same determination reflected in their eyes. "Let's finish this," Laura said, her voice strong and unwavering. Together, they entered the facility, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The fate of the Academy and possibly the entire galaxy rested on their shoulders. Laura, Zev, and Tessa moved stealthily through the corridors of the new facility. The air was thick with tension, and every step they took was calculated and cautious. This was their final chance to stop the rogue faction and they knew failure was not an option. They reached a control room filled with advanced technology and monitors displaying various parts of the facility. Tessa quickly accessed the system, her fingers dancing over the keys. "I've found the central hub," Tessa whispered. "It's heavily guarded, but it's the key to shutting everything down," Laura nodded. "We need to create a diversion. Zev, you and I will draw the guards away. Tessa, you get to the hub and shut it down." Zev grinned, his eyes gleaming with determination. "Let's do it." They moved swiftly, setting their plan into motion. Laura and Zev caused a series of controlled explosions in different parts of the facility, drawing the guards away from the central hub. The facility was thrown into chaos, alarms blaring and lights flashing. As the guards rushed to contain the explosions, Tessa slipped through the shadows, making her way to the central hub. Laura and Zev fought off any remaining guards, using their combat skills to keep them at bay. Tessa reached the central hub and began working on shutting it down. The rogue faction's leaders, realizing what was happening, rushed to stop her. Laura and Zev intercepted them, engaging in a fierce battle. "You won't stop us," one of the leaders shouted, lunging at Laura. Laura dodged the attack, her movements fluid and precise. "We already have," she replied, delivering a swift kick that sent the leader sprawling. Zev tackled another leader, using his strength to pin him down. "It's over," he growled. "Your plans end here." Meanwhile, Tessa worked frantically, her fingers flying over the control panel. "Almost there," she muttered, her eyes focused on the screen. Just a few more seconds. The facility's power began to fluctuate, lights flickering as Tessa initiated the shutdown sequence. The leaders of the rogue faction, seeing their plans unravel, made a desperate attempt to escape. Laura and Zev didn't let them. With coordinated precision, they subdued the remaining leaders, ensuring they couldn't cause any more harm. "Got it," Tessa shouted triumphantly as the facility's systems powered down, rendering the rogue faction's plans useless. The guards, realizing they had lost, surrendered. Laura, Zev, and Tessa stood together, breathing heavily but victorious. They had done it. They had stopped the rogue faction once and for all. As they exited the facility, they were greeted by a team of Academy security officers, led by Professor Galarn. He looked at them with a mix of pride and relief. "You've done it," Galarn said, his voice filled with admiration. "You've saved us all." The trio was escorted back to the Academy, where they were hailed as heroes. The news of their bravery spread quickly, and they were celebrated by students and faculty alike. In the following days, the Academy returned to normal, but Laura, Zev, and Tessa knew things would never be the same. They had faced incredible danger and emerged stronger for it. Their bond was unbreakable, forged in the fires of their shared ordeal. One evening, as they sat together in the Academy's garden, Laura looked at her friends and smiled. "We did it," she said softly. "We really did it," Zev nodded. Together, Tessa grinned. "I wouldn't have it any other way." As the stars twinkled overhead, Laura felt a deep sense of contentment. They had faced the impossible and come out victorious. And in doing so, they had proven that even the most unexpected heroes could change the course of history. The Academy would always remember the day when a human daughter, with her unwavering determination and bravery, shocked the aliens' campus in ways no one could have predicted. And Laura knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, she and her friends were ready to face them together.